That seems to not be working. Well, guys, I was trying to get Nathan on the stream. Like I probably mentioned a couple times, I'm not sure which ones actually came through because I've been messing with my microphone settings. Nathan is not in the office at the moment, but he's working from home. We've had a ton of snow, and it's like crazy blizzard town in Springfield. So anyway, yeah, I was trying to mess with audio settings and get Soundflower to like reroute audio and stuff. Um, and it seems to not be working. So I can try it one more time here. We'll try one more setting. So Nathan, say something. I'm not hearing anything on Twitch. Did you? Okay. Oh well. Okay. Sorry, guys. It's something I've been meaning to work on, and tried to look into a little bit, and still haven't gotten it to work. So, um, yeah. So unfortunately, like the software I have to use on Mac doesn't allow me to kind of jack in multiple audio inputs easily. So I'm not able to play music while I stream, or apparently talk to Nathan in any way that you guys can hear. Um, so although I can do like like the picture in picture in picture, that would be kind of fun, right? Just see that little screen popping in there forever. So okay, no more experiments. We'll actually start working now. Um, So yeah, Nathan and I were just having an interesting discussion about traps and triggers and other various doodads in the drop. So I was going to draw some weapons, but I think this might actually be a little more interesting. And unfortunately, you won't be able to hear him. But if he says something pertinent, I will just repeat it for everyone. Um, let's get this spreadsheet over here. So it looks like you guys can probably read that decently. Um, yeah, I'll just blow that up a little bit. How's that? Oh, huge. Okay, that should be fine, right? Okay, so we're Nathan and I were having a discussion about what kind of switches operate traps and power sources and so on. And so we'd been deciding that okay, so for all traps and turrets, in theory they all have a power source somewhere. Maybe the power source isn't visible in the room. It may be under the floor or whatever. Like it just doesn't exist. We don't specify it. But for any room that you do have one of these power sources, you can basically like the power source will be lit with elemental magic or something that that is giving the power source its power, and that power automatically, well, we have to manually script it, but that gets funneled to all the turrets and traps and everything in the room. And so for the sake of puzzles, we talked about having these sort of switches, like a plate in the floor that you can press to like interrupt the power flow from that power source to the turrets themselves. And it would actually be like, well, kind of like the pipe valves that we have now, where if you unscrew one of these valves or screw it in, the steam flows to these kind of steam vents in the pipes. So, but so we were going over that, trying to kind of differentiate from one type of switch to another, what powers various things in rooms, what do specific switches do. So, and we just talked about how your normal kind of flip plate, like basically a plate that you just step on, it turns on permanently. What does that do? And like let's limit what it can control so that you don't have switches that turn on, open the doors, close the doors, turn on this turret, make a treasure chest appear, and make the room swarm with enemies like all in one go. Because then if you don't know, like if a switch can do everything, you never know what a switch is going to do, which may be kind of interesting for a roguelike, but not very fun for kind of player expectation. So, Um, okay, so the flip plates are triggered on any kind of contact or weight applied, so you can just step on them. Um, and then we removed the weight plate and just kind of combined it or like rolled it into the pressure plate. So the pressure plate you have to put an object on, and it requires a certain amount of weight to weigh it down. So it requires a heavy block, and that block has to stay there. So, but Nathan, what I was just going to say, like the one thing that this makes it so that we can't do is something like there were the rooms previously that had the pressure plates that you would keep stepping on and flipping, and they would keep causing turrets to fire. And so I was thinking that if you want something that you can flip an indefinite number of times, like I basically created this crank switch, which is specifically for like firing a turret that is like crank operated, or if there's something you want to fire, I don't know what else we would have that fires a certain number of times. Really, it would. I guess you could operate spikes or spears or something that way. Like if you had a spear that came out of the ground and you wanted to come up at a very specific moment, you could flip one of these crank switches and it would pop up or whatever. Um, but really, like turrets make the most sense, right? Um, yeah. I really need to figure out how to get you on this call because this isn't. I'm not going to be able to repeat that in any way that makes sense. uh, um, I wonder if I could just turn on my internal computer speaker, but then that wouldn't the sound wouldn't be very good. Does anyone know how to work Soundflower out there? Anyone know anything about that? Yeah. So the bad. I mean, Nathan and I are actually talking on Skype right now. The bad thing is that I can't get his audio coming from Skype to pipe into the stream. Because I'm not using I'm on a Mac, so I can't use XSplit. I use Flash Media Encoder and CamTwist. And CamTwist doesn't have any audio options. It's basically like you pick a webcam. I mean, I can specify where my audio is coming from in here. So right now it's just coming from the headset, but I've been trying to like Soundflower. You can use to reroute audio, but it's very weird and abstract, and I can't figure out. Well, that's what was causing the loop earlier. Um, so, and I tried messing with the settings, but like basically what would happen is you would get on a loop, and no one could hear me. Yeah. Um, Well, we may have to look at this afterward. So there isn't any magic through which someone hears Nathan now, right? Anything now? Testing, testing. Yeah, I don't know. Well, so this isn't very fun for the stream. So, well, I, I guess for the moment, well, we can keep talking about this really quick and just go through these, and after you and I are done talking, I'll move on to weapons or something like that. Um, so I probably do not remember the room that you were describing to me earlier, with regard to pressure plates and the crank switch and so on. Did you not hear me just now, Nathan? Okay, I think me messing with the settings screwed up the where audio was coming from. So um, I don't actually remember the the room you were talking about previously. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so Nathan was just saying something that's kind of spring operated. So when you walk up and you activate it, and then it returns to its original position, and you can activate it again, which was kind of my like is a similar idea to the crank switch, but I like that having some kind of a spring operated looking something to it. So I'm just going to put spring operated visually in here. Um, so okay. Let's see, and then we have the lever switch, which this is currently what we're using to open the drop. So that would no longer open the drop in the end. We would have a special, some kind of a special drop switch, which I think is in our sheet. Yeah, and so that's yeah. It would look like a pillar with a light on it or something, and you just press Y, and it's like you push the button and the drop does its thing. But so the lever switch, I was thinking would toggle between two options used for room wide variables. So I mean, really, like all of these are for room mechanics, and they would all do the same stuff. Like I have in here like these different kind of switches could flip spears down. So if you ran around the room and all these spears popped up, then you could flip this switch and the spears would go back down possibly, or it would lower barriers like we've got the gate, or like the drawbridges actually would be a good thing to put here. Room reset switches, I talked to Kobe about, and he said it was probably maybe possible. Sounded kind of like hard on his end. I would probably make that its own thing, just so you know that this totally resets the room. You'd probably also want that switch to be right by the door that you came in by. Otherwise, if it's on the other side of the room or something, you could reset a room in such a way that it's either easier or impossible because you start out in a different position. But let's stub that in here, and just mark it as tentative. Yeah, Nathan just suggested that maybe we could put some kind of a room reset that would reset the whole dungeon, but I guess like, well, that's death sort of does that, right? I mean, I guess it doesn't like allow you to go back and solve the same puzzles, but it would defeat a little bit of the kind of permadeath idea. Um, Nathan, can you think of anything else that we need to operate in rooms with these switches? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Nathan was just pointing out that we have this valve switch here, which in different zones, I mean, like we'll have something kind of similar to pipes in some other zones, but it might be like a conduit for electricity or like fire, fire vents or something like that, right? So, but I was actually thinking that we could just use, I mean, maybe we do like a zone specific crank to kind of go with the zone specific pipes, quote unquote. But I was thinking it would work similarly. Like it basically toggles. It's a toggle on and off, and has some kind of an animation with it. It could go in the zone variable sheet, but I guess we're trying to figure out if these need to go in their own sheet, right? So I don't know. Yeah, so just so you guys on the stream know, like we're in the process of splitting up some of these object types, like switches versus regular objects or interactives and so on, like splitting them into different sheets. And Nathan's been putting a lot of work into trying to get that stuff organized, basically. Um, and I think I just lost Nathan. Um, And Doomspeaker just said he would like to see a conduit that can actually damage you and enemies. Um, so could you give me a little more explanation on that? Because I mean, it's kind of interesting. Like, well, I was thinking we would have, say, like pipes with the steam vents. Like right now, the steam doesn't cause damage, but you'll have in, I don't know, zone 4 or something, you might have these pipes or ventilation ducts uh, that are kind of shaped the same way as the pipes now, but would like shoot fire, and so it would damage you. It's kind of like an alternate turret kind of thing. Or do you actually want the pipe itself? Like if you touch the pipe, it damages you. Yeah. So just got Nathan back. So Nathan, did you hear or see what Doomspeaker was just suggesting? Like having some pipes that damage you directly, which is something that is probably possible. We just hadn't talked about. Well, he was meaning like if, say, we had like heated fire vents. If you touch anywhere along the vent, and so the fire coming out of the vent hole would be more dangerous, but the pipe itself is a little dangerous. I mean, we could probably just easily attach some touch damage. I mean, it would basically be like the bladed pillars, whatever parameter is giving those damage. I guess they have an attached weapon or something, right? You'd have to attach a weapon, technically speaking, to the pipe, like to every piece of the pipe, to make it cause damage. Yeah, collision damage parameter. Yeah. Um, So Nathan was just saying on the object sheet we could probably add a parameter that is an effect that occurs on collision. Um, yeah, I mean we have like we've got contact damage, but that's sort of like if something touches the object, does it die, right? So yeah, I mean we could easily I think script the reverse, which is like if anything touches me, I cause damage. Um, in a way, I'm not sure why we didn't do that, but I think it had something to do with having to attach weapons to those blade pillars. Mm. So how are the blade pillars set up? I don't actually know where they are, and I'm looking in our other sheet here. So it's not on this sheet. It's on the other one. Okay. So it's just because it was on traps, though. It's not on objects, I guess. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Probably Kobe needs to weigh in on that because I don't know if there might be something in the class for objects or interactives or whatever they are that is yeah so that objects don't inherently cause damage, and that's why we had to attach a weapon to them. Just as because basically like we start designing all this stuff and all the code classes bleed together. I'm like, Kobe, can you make a trap that has AI and works just like an enemy with and holds weapons? And he's like, well, well, yeah, it's an enemy then. Like, so it's like on the design side, like we some of the time we just want everything to behave like everything else. Where Kobe needs things to be a little more defined. Any programmers watching the stream are probably like screaming at us right now. Yeah, and Doomspeaker is also suggesting that if you had these valves that turned the fire or whatever on and off, that would also turn the damage on and off, which that also gets trickier. I say that would be considerably trickier. Yeah. So so that is something to discuss with Kobe probably pretty soon. Um, okay. Hey, Matt just got here. Um, let's see. So we've also got directional switches. So the directional switches you can sort of flip, and they'll rotate to face in different directions. So this was mainly the reason I came up with this initially was for almost like a combination lock kind of thing for the drop rooms. So you'd have this puzzle where you like press the interact button on this dial that turns at 45 or 90 degree angles. And you have to have four of them line up. Like this one, the top left one needs to face north, and the top right one needs to face east. I guess I haven't played enough Skyrim, but probably so. Well, wait, I think I do remember something that you had to some kind of plate in the ground that rotated, and you had to get a symbol to show up or something, right? Yeah. So I'm just going to make this 8 directions instead of 4, so we're not too limited. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, we may just do just one direction and rotate it in spine, because we'd also want to show it twisting, like when you press the Y button, it clunk, 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 turns 45 degrees. So yeah, we'll make that easy. So really, the directional switch is really kind of this is almost like a miscellaneous. I'm just going to make a miscellaneous section here. I was thinking it would also be cool if the directional switch could cause turrets to face different directions. Like if we had a turret that could, well, I mean, like we were talking about how turrets can face, up, down, left, or right, and some of them can rotate. But like if you had a turret facing up and you flip the switch and suddenly it's facing right, so basically, like there's no way to clear this room unless you actually modify the turret facing directions. Um, yeah. Yeah, I think we could probably get away without doing animation. Like they could probably just pop. I mean, they may not even be on the screen. Like I, because I'm thinking about like I want to draw them so it looks like they could rotate. I mean, just so it's easy for us to like snap a different turret kind of cannon on top. So you just have like here's the base and here's the top, and you just have one facing up and one facing left and so on. I think they could pop. Um, it wouldn't be as nice, but I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Yeah, yeah, we could try to have Kobe rotate that. I just don't want to add one more thing to his plate, but yeah. So really, I mean, this directional switch and the combination dial down below are kind of the same thing here. Um, So I don't know if we would want to make those either just make them the same thing, and so basically in the drop puzzle room when you have these 8 directional switches, and just axe the combination dial. Yeah, I can just change this to dial. Okay, so um, we could just yeah we could only use the sort of four states. So yeah, I mean you could script that in properties, I guess, instead of having two totally separate objects. The only thing was I was thinking like maybe we would do just very slightly separate art so that you could see like that the one is 4 and one is 8. You'd have, I don't know, just arrows on the top or something. But yeah, well we'll figure out how to do that. Um, so let's see. We're okay. Retracting switch was the next one. Must be activated with the interact button, retracts or turns on permanently. So, I mean, basically the retracting switch, kind of, that's really sort of the same thing as the flip plate, special version of the flip plate. I was thinking that this would be for some kind of a zone-wide thing that you need to, like, you turn it off for the entire zone. And so the only reason that it would be different is so that you know that this is changing a zone-wide variable. Like, say you have fire jets all over this zone, you have to, like, shut them off with a retracting switch. Um, but that Kobe would have to do some special programming, but I think we're going to have something like that just for puzzle purposes. But then I've also got the master lever switch and retracting switch, which are the same thing. So basically, this retracting switch can probably go away. Yeah, because the flip plate is the same functionally. Um, so these, I guess these, I'll just put them under miscellaneous, really. Um, So yeah, the lever switch, or I'll just call it just master lever. That would be like you can flip it left or right, so you could turn the fire jets on and then off again and then back on if you wanted to. Where the retracting switch is just like barriers down, for good. Um, yeah, I mean, we could remove one. Like we could just do the lever and not the retracting switch. I somehow in my mind like picturing this happening, like, well, these would be separate art. They would look pretty special. They might not. They might even be like bigger because you kind of imagine like giant lever that you have to like push that's like bigger than you if you're going to change something zone wide. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we could easily do one or the other. Um, yeah. I think the only way I can see to differentiate these is like, okay, you've got jets of fire that can be turned on and off. You would use the master lever, and so like, yeah, you could turn them off, turn them back on again, turn them off permanently. But the retracting switch would be something like, I don't know. So this is an example we're probably not going to be able to pull off, but we had talked about having like a room with pillars, and you do something and the pillars break and a new room falls down, or objects fall down into that room. That would be something that you can't reverse, and so it doesn't make sense to have like a switch that you can flip on and off again, because once you turn it on, it's permanent. Like that's going to happen zone wide. Um, so yeah, that would require it would require some special programming and scripting. So, and off the top of my head, I can't think of what we've currently talked about that would do this kind of thing. I mean, well, okay, so um, so one thing that we haven't talked about yet is like what kind of switch or just anything in general, what could make a treasure chest appear? Like if we had a hidden magical treasure chest that we want to, I don't know, fall from the ceiling or just poof, it appears out of thin air kind of thing. Um, because so far we've had the magic chest that you can't open by whacking them, but you go and press like a normal switch and they'll open sometimes. But we never really decided what is the mechanic for opening these treasure chests. And I mean, I would almost, well, yeah, I would agree. I'd rather they pop out of the floor or fall from the ceiling rather than just like ta-da, they're there without even a puff of smoke. So, um, well, and I mean, the current magic chests, they're just there until you flip a switch and then they flip open, which also seems kind of weird, to me at least. So, um, I don't know. I mean, I think we do want some kind of here's a way to know, oh, there are goodies in the room, but I have to solve the puzzle first. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember. Like Zelda has keys that fall from the ceiling if you defeat all the enemies, but I don't remember if it does. I think sometimes a treasure chest will appear, and it'll be like a poof of smoke. Um, um, So, I mean, we could easily make like some kind of materializing effect for like the magic chest. Have it like, say you press this. Let's just imagine we're making like a magical switch or a magical retracting switch or something. You like push this down, it goes down into the floor, and a chest magically sort of appears out of the floor, just as part of the chest's built-in animation state. And it would probably, like, I guess it would just open if you touch it, basically. I mean, right now and this would kind of replace the current magic treasure chest. So Doomspeaker was suggesting maybe not to give the magic chest one unified condition, but let the room layout offer hints, or the room layout often hints at a chest appearing. So yeah. And we do have some tiles that are kind of like a pedestal, or like it's almost like a little frame that's specifically designed to like stick a chest in. So yeah, we could do something like that. I guess it would just seem weird to me if, like, the way that you make a chest appear is to, like, flip the most minor looking switch in the game. So it's just like, here's the switch I can put a pot on, and and like this amazing treasure chest appears. It seems like it should be a little more special. Yeah. Yeah, I think if we made a bunch of different conditions for the treasure chest, I would say, like, have the treasure chest there, and I do a little bit of redrawing so the chest looks like it's bolted to the floor and has like chains and junk over it, and so it's like it's locked up tight, and there's some kind of a magical looking inscription tablet, I don't know, something on it that, and if you approach it, it says like, oh, this is magically sealed. Something along those lines. And so you go and like experiment and, do these different, do whatever you can in that room. And then you see the treasure chest like unbolt and all of this goodies pop out. Yeah. So anyway, so all of that to say, like, so if that sort of thing is the case, and you could have like any number of mechanics, like press this switch, kill all the enemies, a combination of both. Yeah, I mean, I think that if we put some kind of insignia on the treasure chest, so that, okay, I've got to do like several things to open this chest. Throw holy water on it and spin around in a circle and rub my tummy and pat my head, then, as long as the treasure chest somehow clued you into like, okay, you've got to do these crazy things, then that could work. Yeah. So it would only be that one magic chest, though. Um, but so what if we wanted just like any other chest to appear, though? I guess like if you wanted just a random chest to materialize. Um, Oh, and Doomspeaker, to be clear, like the chest, whatever the chest says, wouldn't actually spell out the unlock conditions. It would just be something that tells, like it would literally say, like the character would walk up to the chest, and the character would say in dialogue, like, "Huh, I guess I need to do several things to unlock this chest." So yeah, so it wouldn't actually tell you explicitly these are the things to do. It's just, I think there needs to be a way to kind of tutorialize new players to, or any player to understand, like, oh, I've got to do a few different things. Like, it's not going to be one switch or a key or a, it's going to be a combination. Um, yeah. Yeah, so I guess yeah, maybe not a literal lock, but something like that. Um so anyway, we're back to like, do we need a retracting switch or anything like that? I mean, I one thing that came to mind as we were talking about all that stuff is like, what if you had a switch that didn't appear until you hit another switch? So this would be for like pretty elaborate puzzles. So like, so basically, it would be the appearing pressure plate. So you have to like, there's a pressure plate up in the top left corner, and you push a block onto it, and then another pressure plate kind of appears elsewhere in the room. I mean, and we could just build an animation state into the pressure plate so that they are like, I don't know, hidden by, they start out, or you can make them start out hidden by a floor tile, something like that. Hmm. Yeah, I think we would want some kind of an animation state for the pressure plate, so it like you'd see it kind of make it somehow look like the floor moves and it appears. Um, I mean, I guess we could do that for everything from like the flip plates to the pressure plates. Yeah, so we'd have to figure out a different way to like. I mean, if all switches behaved that way, Kobe could kind of hard code like. I mean, basically, the moment you walk into a room, every switch would like, it would somehow appear. Um, so, um, so I'm just gonna mark this master retracting switch as a maybe. If we, yeah, if we don't have a anything specifically in the dungeons to use it for, then we can cut it. So let's see. The other ones we have are the switch block, which you slide back and forth. It's basically like, it's kind of a different version of the combination block where you have to like push it one direction, push it another. But really, I mean, since you've only got like, if you've, I guess you could have like up to 9 different combinations if you had a 3x3 grid. So you've got here's a 3x3 grid on the ground. The block starts in the center, and you can push it to any block kind of within that zone. But since you've only got 9 combinations max, you could get almost the same thing out of the directional dial. It's just like a different way of, it's just another combination dial kind of thing. So I think we can probably cut that one, because I know that was going to be harder for Kobe anyway, since it has to move, but the movement is constrained. So, yeah. So, okay, so the last thing is the rune cycler, which I think this would be easy enough to do. That basically, like, it's some kind of little pillar or something that if you whack it, a rune appears, and every time or you press Y or whatever it is. So every time you kind of push the thing, or push the button, a different rune appears. So you can spell out words. You could, like you could find a piece of paper that says like, this symbol goes in the upper left and this symbol goes in the upper right, and so on. So, um, I did not play Fable 1, but So let's Google this really quick so that people can know what you're talking about. So apparently, like Nathan was just telling me, there's a puzzle in Fable 1. You said. Uh, so there's a puzzle where you're supposed to spell hits, but instead you can spell shit, and the narrator sends bad guys after you or something. Um, does one of these look correct? So, well, so yeah, but it sounds pretty funny though. That I mean, basically, like someone in their QA department probably found out, oh, I can spell shit instead of hits, and the game still accepts it, and so they're like, instead of taking that out, let's just make a joke out of it, and send enemies after you because you were naughty or whatever. So we'll probably get around that by just having runes in our own made-up alphabet, or having elemental runes or something like that. So, do we? I guess, are we missing anything? Um, so the one, since we started this whole discussion by talking about traps, I guess really the question would be, so the crank switch, if you can use that to, every time you hit the crank switch, it turns on, or it like fires a projectile from one of these turrets or something. Um, how does that work with the power plate and the power source? I mean, maybe the power source has to be on, and then there's a crank switch in between. And if there's a crank switch kind of spliced in between the two, then it has to be activated. The crank has to be activated for the turret to fire. So it would be like, because I mean that was one of the more interesting things in the build we took to PAX, was the one room where it's like there's a pipe that prevents you from moving up into the room, but there are two switches right when you walk in, pressure plates, and you can step on them, and this row of turrets shoots like a million arrows back and forth, and so you just keep running back and forth, stepping on the switches to shoot all these arrows, and like once you kill the slimes, then the room unlocks or whatever. I mean, that was like, it was a pretty interesting room, so I want to keep that in, but I guess the question is like, is this the best way to accomplish that, to have this kind of crank switch sort of thing? Or maybe we say like, maybe the arrow traps are just like, they're purely mechanical, like they aren't powered by the arcane power sources, they're only powered by these crank switches or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, separate from the magic ones. So, um, so do we? I was gonna look in here really quick. Do we have any other kinds of traps that we would want to? I mean, because it could be kind of interesting to have one of these guillotine things that you like hit the crank and it, bzz, shoots across. So you could wait until an enemy gets in its way and then like buzzsaw the enemy with a guillotine. I mean, it wouldn't really be necessary, but um, Yeah, so Nathan was just saying like we could do that with the power plate here, where basically if the you wait until the bad guy gets kind of in the area where the trap would, like the guillotine would slice through it, and so you stand on the guillotine or the guillotine's power plate switch to deactivate it. Wait until the little slime gets in the way, and then step off, and it would. Bzz. So yeah, I mean that could be, I think, a good way to do that. Yeah, just kind of like lure enemies into the into the crossfire. So um, so so basically. So I guess the way we would probably accomplish what you were just saying is like what if we had like a drawbridge that instead of flipping from up to down, like let's say it normally lays a flat downward against a pit wall. Um, and so if you step on this plate, it flips up. And so you wait for the spider to jump at you and, like you were saying, hold your shield up. The spider hits your shield, bounces onto this trapdoor, and then you step off the switch again, and boom, it's going to plummet to its death. Right? So yeah, I mean that could be really cool. And I think we could probably do that with the. I guess we'd have to do it with the pressure plates. So like yeah, the pressure plate would have to be held down for this drawbridge to flip up. So I guess I should add drawbridge here. And I mean, drawbridge could actually be permanently operated by a flip plate too. I don't really like that idea as much though. I'd say like drawbridges always have to be operated by a pressure plate or the levers so that they can go up and down. Um, well, drawbridges, well, they won't be rendered in 3D. Like I'll just draw them like with some fakery to kind of make them look like they fold down in perspective, but it won't really match. Like I might have to make them look like they fold down at an angle. So instead of going straight down, in which case you'd expect them to move in perspective with the rest of the game, like they'll just kind of like fold and or I mean they could look like they just slide in, like they retract and extend really fast. So. Yeah. Yeah, it would probably be easier just to have it extend in and out, and it would still serve the same purpose for like trapping enemies and that sort of thing. And then we also have we had listed in there like the crumbling or dissolving platform. So if you step on them, they start disintegrating. So you could lure enemies onto those too, probably. Let's see. Visay was asking, are we going to have any pressure plates like from the Temple of Doom, having to place one object after taking another? And I because well you could do a pressure plate that way, right? Like basically if the pressure plate is flips up, then the whole room like fills with flame turrets or something. So basically like we could weight it down with a treasure chest, and if you whack the treasure chest, then you've got to quickly like drop something else on the pressure plate. I don't know. um, so yeah, I mean we yeah, you could do something where Well, yeah, I don't know how we do that. Like it would have to have like a a 1 or 2 second kind of interval before it checks to see if the object has been removed. Um, yeah. Well, if but then even if there's like if there's a trap delay, it would pick up that the object was removed. It would just pick it up 2 seconds later, and it would still fire at you, probably. So I don't know. Um, so so yeah, Visay, we can make the pressure plates weight dependent. Like I was actually thinking that you, as a character, couldn't weigh down a pressure plate. You'd have to push like a stone block onto it, so it would have a mass requirement of some sort. Um, how do we plan on doing time-based puzzles? Do we get a clicking sound or something like that? So Nathan, unless you think of anything else, the one timing-based puzzle that we have kind of written up right now is based on the key block stuff. And actually, should the key block receptacle go in here? Do you remember what that is? Basically, the key block was something I came up with to have difficult puzzles that you could actually fail at without making the player get stuck. So you'd have this thing called a key block, which would have like a key inscription drawn on it or something, and you can push it around the room. And basically, you have to get the key block onto a receptacle, so a little like hole in the ground or something with that same symbol. And once it gets there, the door's open and you can pass through. But basically, the key block itself would have a timer on it, so it disintegrates after so many seconds once you start moving it. So you start moving it, pushing it, you take too long, poof, it disappears, but it always respawns back in its original position. And so we'd also have a few different types of key blocks, like one that's made out of glass, so it's really fragile, and if you whack it with your sword, it breaks and respawns in the original position. And so like different kind of permutations of mechanics. But so I guess in terms of timing, we haven't talked about how the player would know about that if there's like a tick tock, or if I was thinking probably you just have some kind of symbol type of thing that changes on the key block itself. But so yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd say that. I mean, some of these could be optional to let you into like a treasure room, but some of them probably would be mandatory because I mean, honestly, this is the better candidate for mandatory puzzles because they're that you can't permanently fail them. Or at least it would be really hard to construct. Like you'd have to move something, like I don't know, set fire to the spawn point for the key block or something, to force yourself to fail it. But basically, like any other puzzles, if you come into a room and don't have the right object or the right like fire sword or something to get through the puzzle, like you're just stuck, right? So we can't have those as zone barricades. Those would have to be like treasure room barricades, um, and as far as puzzles go. So, and Chris was saying, um, what about timed handles that or something that you pull out and they slowly like retract back into the wall or something like that. Um, yeah. Um, or I mean, we could. I was thinking about like the retracting switch. Like, what if there's something that if you whack it, it falls into the ground and then it slowly like raises back up, and once it like goes all the way back to the top, just as so that we do something that, well, that would work slightly better with our system and wouldn't seem to like steal from Zelda too much. So let's add that tentatively here. So timer, yeah, timer pillar, timer plate. Uh, I'm just going to call it timer pillar here, and we'll put that in room mechanics because it could. Um, Actually, that could be kind of cool for drawbridges too. Like you flip it down, and the drawbridges all come up, and it's like tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, and once it hits the top, all the drawbridges fall down again, and so you've got to navigate your way through the room before. Or same thing with spikes. Like you knock this down, all the spikes go down, tick tock, and then they pop back up. So I wonder, one thing we'd have to figure out is like, can you push a stone onto it to keep it pressed down? Because I don't know that the physics engine will support that currently. Uh, I don't know. Um, yeah, I think that's what Chris Guest was talking about, right? The where you like, yeah, you pull it out. I think in some of them you had to have the like the power gauntlet or whatever, and others you didn't. I think. Well, I don't remember which one it was. You could just pull it out without a glove or anything. Um, so well, anyway. Um, and I'm gonna leave opens doors off of this list because I don't know if we would want doors to be operated by those. Like, I mean, it could be kind of interesting to have, like, the door opens and you've got 10 seconds to get through the door and then it closes again. But what happens when you get out of the room? Like, is that room permanently closed or? Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we could easily, like, if you wanted a timer that blocks a door. I mean, just like right in front of, like, wall the or not wall off, but like put pits all around the door, and the only way to get to the door is from a drawbridge. Like, it's the same kind of barrier. Like, you can't get to the door unless this switch is flipped or whatever. Yeah. Well, okay, so we've streamed for about an hour, and this is probably the most boring and weird stream yet. I mean, maybe it's got some interesting stuff, but we're only hearing half the conversation. So let's, what if, um, well that we've got some people on here, why don't we mess around? I'll mess around with Soundflower and see if I can figure out how to set this up to actually pipe Nathan's audio through. Um, and well, let's answer these couple of questions first. So Chris Guest was saying even a path of one by one platforms that branch out from the middle and then drop back out. Um, so yeah, Chris, we are planning on probably having some platforms that you like step on and they start to crumble and fall. Uh, so yeah. Um, and so yeah, the drawbridge would it either extend or flip up or something like that to yeah to so you could make like you can make a bridge and then like yeah set up a timer so that they collapse out, or you could just use the crumbling kind of floating stones that start collapsing once you step on them. Um, Okay, Nathan's going to take a quick break here, and then we'll try to figure out Soundflower after I answer these questions. Can there be some kind of sacrifice rooms where you get a reward for lowering your health? I think I had thought about having a some kind of a, well, like basically a an altar or something that measures certain statistics. So basically, like, if your health is over a certain amount or under a certain amount, it gets triggered. But I basically decided that was like too far out there. Like, it would just be a little, I think, too hard for some players to understand unless we use them all the time. So, I mean, yeah, I do like the idea. So maybe I don't know. It's all this stuff exists in spreadsheets, like all these ideas. So it's like if we someday like do an expansion, maybe we could add in something like that. But and so yeah, I think collapsible floors are a go. They probably collapsible floors probably won't look like the floor in the rest of the zone. Like you'll know that they're gonna collapse. Is the only thing. So I don't know if that works for you or not. Hey Nathan, did you just come back? Hey, do you think we could put the collapsible floor tiles into, well, basically put them in the sheet such that those are skinned per zone, so that we could kind of disguise the collapsible floors as regular floors, at least a little bit? Okay. I just don't know what sheet they're in, so while I was thinking about it, I was just going to ask if those could be zone specific visual wise. So I'm gonna stop the stream and start it again a couple times and try some different settings. And so we'll say that the stream is done for the day. But if anyone wants to stick around to help us test audio for 10 seconds, and then hopefully we can do this more in the future and pipe people in through Skype. Is the breakable tile, is that the one you have to hit with a hammer though, or is this the one that falls out from under you? Because I think that one was something I put in as an idea for, like, it's basically some boards or something that hide an object. So I mean, it's basically it would work like a treasure chest you can walk over. So if you whack it with a weapon that hits the ground, it breaks and treasure pops out. Yeah. Well, we can look into that later. So. Okay, so I'm going to stop the stream. We'll be back in 5 seconds if anyone's still around.